Hey there, welcome back. I'm meteorologist Julia Quady. So we were hoping that today and leading up to this upcoming weekend that we could hopefully see some 90s type degree days, but today yet again we ended up hitting a high temperature of around 101 degrees, just matching, thankfully not breaking any records, but matching an old record set back in 2010. But in terms of our temperatures now, things are starting to cool down just a tiny bit. At least here in Corpus Christi, we're no longer in the triple digits. Now we're dropping into the upper 90s, sitting at 99 degrees with our feel like temperature at 112. Over in Robstown, you guys are sitting at 99 degrees with your air temperature, or I should say your feel like temperature rather, at 111 degrees. And over in Kingsville, you guys are sitting at 104 with your feel like temperature at 115 degrees. So even still, brutal heat, very dangerous heat that we're still contending with throughout the remainder of this work week. Thankfully though, we're not holding on to any of those feel like temperatures exceeding 114 degrees quite long enough for us to have reaching that necessary criteria to see any excessive heat warnings in place. All of us across the coastal bend are still under a heat advisory though, so that means we still are going to be seeing our feel like temperatures ranging from 110 up to 114 degrees. So you still want to make sure you're practicing your heat safety tips, as all these counties across the coastal bend will still be under this heat advisory until 7 o'clock this evening. So still make sure you're being careful. And just a quick reminder though, what those heat alerts mean and what the criteria we have to meet to see them going into place and going into effect here in our area. Of course, like I mentioned, we are under a heat advisory here in the coastal bend at the moment, so it does mean we'll be seeing feel like temperatures in that same range that I just mentioned, at least at 110 degrees up to 114, at least holding on to those temperatures for at least 2 hours or more. Thankfully, we don't have any excessive heat warnings in place, and in order for that to happen, at least an area would have to see their feel like temperatures going above 114 degrees, so of course around 115, and holding on to that temperature at least for 2 hours or more. Thankfully, that is not the case for us for today. We had plenty of those cases earlier this week, so I think we're glad to see a little bit of relief in that front. But even still, and heat advisory is still something we need to take seriously. So even still, taking a look at this map behind me, this represents the heat risk associated with that heat advisory that we currently have in effect. So all across the coastal bend, we still are looking at either a moderate or a major risk for heat risk here in the area. So that means that's a high risk for us to see heat-related injury or heat-related illnesses if you aren't, of course, practicing the heat safety tips that we continue to preach here at KRIS 6 News to make sure you take care of yourself and those around you. But looking ahead to tomorrow on your Friday, we'll see a big improvement as we start to see a little bit increase of moisture coming back to the coastal bend. That's going to actually cool down our air temperatures just a tiny bit in the next few days. So that's going to help some improvement in terms of our feel like temperatures as well, starting to cool down just a tiny bit. So we will start to see we'll get down to a moderate zone for our related heat, our heat risk for the next few days. And even as we go ahead into your Saturday, we'll see even more improvement in the way as moisture starts to push on through, starting to see more areas, partially of Refugio County as well as B counties, starting to see a little bit more of a minor risk of heat risk there. So we'll have to just wait for the next few days approaching this weekend as we start to see a little bit of a small cool down beginning to take place in our area. And thankfully, we're still going to be near record, at least for our temperatures, as we reach to your Friday and your Saturday. We'll start to see a decrease in those temperatures into the upper and then mid 90s as we get into this upcoming weekend. And associated with that moisture is also that chance for us to get some rain back in the forecast as we look ahead towards your Sunday. But better chances look more likely as we look ahead to your Monday into the early part of next week. So that's going to be associated with that moisture, dropping our temperatures into the lower 90s and scatter showers for the most part next week.